My name is Earl Willis Jr. Today is May the 16th, 2017, and I work for the Warren County Public Library. Today, we're talking to Mr. Bob Kirby, and we're in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Mr. Kirby, where and when were you born?
I was born on January 24th, 1933 in Murray, Callaway County, Kentucky.
Okay. Did you have any siblings or any parents that were in the military?
I'm sorry.
Any siblings or parents that were in the military?
Oh yes, I had two brothers and three younger sisters.
Okay.
My brothers are both deceased.
Okay. Did any of them have any military service?
Yes. My father served in the Navy in World War I, and my oldest brother served in the Air Force in World War II, and my next brother served in the Navy during the Korean War.
Okay. So do you think that so you had a pretty strong patriotic when you were growing up feeling?
Yes.
Okay. What were you doing before you entered the service?
I've only been out of high school a short time. Matter of fact, I'd been out of high school less than a year.
Okay.
And when I was called for examination, Korean War was going on.
Okay.
Of course, the Korean War broke out in June of 1950.
Okay.
And I graduated from high school in May of 1951 and went to Owensboro to be examined for the service in probably late January of 1952.
Okay. So you said you were drafted, correct?
Yes.
So you got your notice in the mail?
Yes.
Okay. So do you remember being sworn in? Do you remember taking the oath of?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Do you know remember where that was at?
When we were actually called up, and basically when I took the examination in Owensboro, they basically said, pack your bag,
Okay.
because you won't be here long.
Okay.
But it actually turned out to be several months.
Okay.
But anyway, then when I was called up, I again went back to Owensboro. Didn't know where we were going. In the meantime, I had married. My wife was still in high school. We married in February of 1952. And she didn't graduate from high school until May.
Okay.
When I came home from being examined that day with my wife-to-be, I talked it over, and we decided against everybody's advice to go ahead and get married, and she could save my allotment while I was in the service, and she'd go back home and live with her parents.
Okay.
So we did go ahead and get married. But anyway, when I was actually called up, I went back to Owensboro, didn't know where I was going from there, so I didn't know what to tell my family. As it turns out, we went to Fort Meade, Maryland by train, was there for just a few days, and were sworn in there.
Okay. So you were sworn in Maryland.
We stayed at Fort Meade, Maryland.
Okay.
We could see the lights from Washington at night.
Okay.
Again, didn't know where we were going, got on a train, Fort Meade, and all we knew it started getting warmer, so we knew we were going south, which
South.
pleased us all.
Yeah.
We wound up at Camp Rocker, Alabama,
Okay.
and that's where I took my basic training.
Okay.
There for 16 weeks, vigorous training. The training cadre were all Korean War veterans, the platoon sergeants. We had excellent training. I've never been in physical shape
Oh, really?
again in my life. When I got out of basic, I weighed about 160 pounds and was in tip-top shape, and we had a vigorous infantry basic training.
Okay.
Came home for 7 days,
Okay.
and from there was gone 20 months.
Okay. Do you remember anything about your basic training? Does anything stand out the most to you?
I was named an honorary squad leader,
Okay.
so I was an honorary corporal during the 16 weeks of basic. Had temporary corporal stripes,
Okay.
10-man squad leader.
Okay. Do you remember writing back and forth to your mother and father and your wife? I mean, do you remember that?
I do. Wrote often and talked to them on the phone occasionally in basic. My wife came down twice once with my sister. And we came home, Platoon Sergeant brought us home twice during the 16 weeks.
Okay.
Just for a weekend, you know.
Okay. You know, a lot of times people think about now talking to people, they think about internet and cell phone. But how did you, when you were married to your wife, how often did you talk to her? How did you talk to her?
Not often.
Not often?
Not even in basic.
Okay.
But then it got worse.
Okay.
I came home for 7 days after basic, and I was gone 20 months and never spoke to my wife for 13 months.
Okay.
13 months I was in Korea. You know, we didn't have cell phones, and
Yeah.
so I went for 13 months and never spoke to her. Then after the ceasefire and things settled down a bit, and I'd been there 13 months, my whole unit was moved to Schofield Barracks in Hawaii,
Okay.
which is the permanent home of the 25th.
What was your thoughts and feelings when you knew you were going to Korea? Was it nervous, been excited, or something?
Well, a bit nervous, you know, totally unknown.
Unknown.
That was about as far from.
Have you left home before? This is just the first time you left home?
I'd been out of when I went in the service, I'd been out of the state of Kentucky, other than across the Tennessee line,
Okay.
maybe twice
Okay.
to Florida.
So now you go from going to maybe Kentucky, Tennessee, or Alabama. Now you go from Kentucky,
As far as you can get.
yeah, as far as you can get. So that you know, a lot of the people I've interviewed, almost all of them, they were small town people, and then the first time they got to travel around the world when they went in the military.
Yeah. But after the 13 months in Korea, they selected one officer, one NCO, and 10 enlisted men from each unit to go to Hawaii and as an advance party and set up the barracks. The barracks were there at where the film From Here to Eternity was made.
Okay.
Because those barracks hadn't been used in years. So we had to go set up everything. And I was lucky to be the NCO on that advanced party. So about a third of the division went on the advanced party. About 30 days later, another third came, and then 30 days later, the balance of them came. So we had everything set up. Of course, as soon as I got to Hawaii, I called my wife, but that's the first time I talked to her.
In 13 months.
13 months.
Yeah, that's you know, that's hard
Yeah.
people to. That's
You
hard.
know,
Yeah.
we wrote on a regular basis, but after a while, it gets to where you could almost make a Xerox copy because you run out of something to say.
You say.
The weather, and,
Yeah.
you know.
I don't know if people really comprehend that you got married and you didn't. I mean, for somebody to get married and then not talk to their wife for 13 months,
Yeah.
that's really hard to comprehend.
We married, and I was basically gone from home for 20 of the next 24 months.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, that's the way it was. Didn't want to do it then, but looking back on it, wouldn't take anything for the experience. So as soon as I got there, well, in basic, I took the OCS exam for officer training school
Okay.
and passed it, but I knew I wasn't going to stay in the service, so I didn't go. But it was on my record, so as soon as I got to Korea, I was sent to I-Corps NCO school
Okay.
and went through, whereas in infantry, in basic, I took infantry training.
Okay.
But in CO school, we went through artillery, armored, engineering, the whole works.
Okay. Can you
So-
maybe tell us a little about your training, your infantry training? Can you, the people that watch this, can you maybe explain what's involved in infantry training?
Well, in South Alabama in the summer, going through infantry training, it's an experience. Hot, humid, vigorous training, long, no rolled up sleeves, no unbloused top, combat boots, full field packs, and sustained march.
Made a man out of you, didn't it?
Yeah, sure did. And die for water, wouldn't give you water. Took a salt tablet every day, whether you needed it or not.
Was a mistake.
Whether you had high blood pressure or not, you took a salt tablet. And they checked your name off of a roster, make sure you took it. But anyway, I had some great leadership training in basic. And then by going through NCO school in Korea, more vigorous leadership training. And obviously that's why I wound up as first started my unit in 2 years' time. And that's helped me all through my life,
Yes, sir.
the leadership experience, and I wouldn't take anything for it.
Can you tell us maybe about some of your first thoughts when you arrived to Korea? When you first got to Korea, can you maybe tell us what you thought?
In Korea,
Yes, sir.
it was a desolate place. When I was there was not a paved road in the state, in the country that I was on. Dirt. I was driven in convoys during broad open daylight with blackout lights on. You couldn't see for the dust. Then in the fall, the monsoon rain set in, and that turned to almost quicksand. You had a bitter, long winter and a short, extremely hot summer.
Summer. Yes,
It
sir.
was the strangest climate that I've ever seen. In the winter, bitter cold, slept in a tent for 13 months. The only way I slept in the 13 months I was there was at a 10-man squat tent.
A lot of the stuff that I've studied about the Korean War and talked to Korean War veterans, they talk about how cold it was.
The first thing that any Korean War veteran, at least it was there when I was, and living in the conditions that we did, is going to mention the cold and the wind.
The wind.
Filth. I was there 13 months. I may have had a shower maybe 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
And you get to a shower point, and by the time you got back to your unit, which you usually hitchhike, you were filthier than you were when you left.
Yeah.
You'd go to, they'd have a shower point set up somewhere you could buy stationery and stamps and cigarettes and get a shower, which was a tent with the
Yeah.
engineers that rigged up some water.
Yeah.
But
I always like to ask people, when you were in Korea, what would be your average day from like when you woke up in the morning until you went to bed at night? What would your average day consist of?
well, everybody, of course, in the morning you fell out for reveille, for roll call.
Okay.
And from there you went to whatever your assigned duties were, and it could have been anywhere from kitchen to, I was in the artillery, so we moved a lot. The artillery, you don't want the opposite side to know where you are, so you move a lot.
Okay.
Move everything. Quick note. You get no warning, you maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, you're blown out there, we're moving. The only time I was going on R&R to Japan, I got to the airfield. When I got there, K9 as I recall, there was a message waiting that we were moving. They held the Jeep driver up, went back, so I never went. I never left Korea in 13 months.
Okay. So like you would wake up in the morning, what would you do the rest of the day? What would your rest of the day consist of?
Before I left Korea, I was what's called field first sergeant. So we training,
Okay.
constant training.
And you, before this interview, we talked about there was a ceasefire, but was it the North Koreans or the Chinese firing at you, or was it both?
Well, but that time Korea.
Okay.
There probably wouldn't have been a ceasefire if the Chinese hadn't got belly full of it and
Okay.
forced them to sign the ceasefire.
Okay.
But there was several ceasefires during the war.
Okay.
But they'd last 2 or 3 days, they'd get them walk out, then
Okay.
they'd get them back and until the final one in July of 1953.
When I've talked to Korean War veterans and I've talked some and I've read some, they talk about maybe the Koreans or the Japanese, the Chinese, they would blow bugles. And do you remember that do you remember that?
Well, they, of course, our troops thought that was a fear tactic. It really wasn't. They didn't have the communications that we did, and they used it as a signal.
Okay.
They directed their troops.
Okay, so they were kind of primitive, and that was the way they were.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now it was terrifying, and our guys always thought that was the purpose of it, but it wasn't. That's a method they used to direct their troops. You know, the terrain was like this,
Yeah.
and so visibility was poor.
Okay.
But it had a double effect.
Yeah. You see that, hearing that many people, that would be pretty frightening.
Yeah.
Very frightening. So.
But you know, I don't ever remember seeing a tree.
Really?
I don't ever remember seeing a tree. I saw some scrawny evergreen shrub maybe, but it either been cleared away or cut away for wood or blown away.
Okay, okay.
But I'm sure they are now, and maybe there was some in a park somewhere. I don't ever remember seeing a tree.
Did you have any close friends that you talked to?
Did, and kept in contact with a few of them, but the closest one I was close to was from Dubuque, Iowa.
Okay.
And he's dead now, but he came through here 3 times, and we spent some time together. They'd passed through here on the way to Florida in the winter. And but made a lot of friends during that time I was there.
Okay. Would you think of, I've asked this question before, would you think of the people that you were with, were they more like co-workers or were they brothers? Did you think more of them like somebody you work with, you know, or did you have like a family bond with them?
I don't know, everybody sort of felt they were in the same boat, you know, everybody wanted to go home.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to be there.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate, we had some good officers, and I was in a good unit. Never had any problems of any kind, really.
Okay.
We had some problem when we got to Hawaii. We had some, not many, but we had some AOL problems. Wasn't any point in it because everybody had plenty of time off there. But
Yeah.
it wasn't anywhere to go in Korea, that's for sure. You had to worry about AWOL.
Yeah. It was just more out in the middle of nowhere country, right?
There was nowhere to go and no way to get there.
Yeah. Do you, for people who've never been in a combat situation, what was it like sleeping? Was it uneasy, or did you just so tired you slept? I mean,
Well, you're never comfortable because that was a very tentative ceasefire, and there's still no peace treaty ever signed there. All they had is ceasefire to this day. So it's not like the normal end of a war
yeah.
where you sign a peace treaty. So yeah, it was uneasy, and they kept us on our toes as they should have. Train all the time. We would have what we call red alerts. Blow you out at 2 o'clock in the morning, always unexpected, and you'd be out, man your positions until you got clear.
Okay.
And any minute, every one of those, you expect to look up and see 3,000 or 4,000 Chinese coming over the hill.
Really?
They never did, but
Yeah.
that was what their intent was, keep you on
Ready.
toes and on the alert,
Yeah.
and well trained, good equipment. And I was fortunate when I was there because the guys that really caught it were the ones there when it broke out, or the ones that were there for the first winter of 50.
Okay.
That's terrible. They weren't equipped, weren't expecting it. The time I was there, we had, it was still cold, but we had good equipment.
Okay.
Mickey Mouse boots, insulated
Yeah.
boots. And
Do you remember your rifle you had? Was it the M1 Garand?
it was M1. I had M1 in basic training.
Okay.
Now, I had a carbine, an M1
Okay.
carbine,
M1 carbine.
lightweight carbine when I was in
Okay.
Korea.
Yeah. Did you like it pretty well?
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't as powerful as
Yeah, it's a 30-06.
yeah. Yeah, but it was a great little weapon.
Yeah.
And it was side hung.
Yeah.
M1, you know, it was
Yeah.
awkward to carry, but
Yeah,
the
it was-
carbine was side hung.
Yeah. It was light too.
Yeah.
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 So did you get to talk to your wife any when you were you said you didn't get to talk to your wife in Korea?
Not for that 13 months.
Yeah. That's I think a lot of times people forget about well, not only is it stressful on the people serving, but it's really stressful on their family too.
Well, and you're always concerned. My wife had some minor surgery while I was in Korea. But you wonder if is it really minor, or are they just trying to keep you from knowing the truth? But Dr. Grice, I never will forget, her surgeon, wrote me a letter and told me that it was not critical surgery, but if something happened, that he would be the first to contact the Red Cross and get me home. And I've never forgotten him doing that.
Yeah.
That's John Grice, Judge John Grice's father.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. It really strikes me as I don't know how people comprehend that you just get married and then you don't talk to somebody for over a year.
Yeah. Well, of course, family and minister and everybody tried to talk us out of it. Like I said, I had just turned 19, and she was 17 when we married. February 16th of this year, we'd been married 65 years.
Yes, sir.
With four children, 6 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren.
Do you remember when you found out that you got to leave Korea? Do you remember that?
Very well, and I could have stayed, when my unit pulled out of Korea, I could have stayed in Korea another 3 months
Okay.
and came home. I knew by going to Hawaii, I'd have to stay about 6. I wanted out. So I chose to leave after the 13 months and move to Hawaii, even though I'd have to stay there 3 months longer than I would have in Korea. But if I stayed 3 more months in Korea, I'd been into another winter, and I didn't
You
want
had enough of that. Yeah. So when you got to Hawaii, did you get to speak to your wife then?
I called her as soon as I got there.
Yeah.
But at that point, it had been 13 months.
Okay. That was pretty good to hear her voice.
It
wasn't
was. It was. And we talked after that, because it was kind of expensive, but we'd talk once a month or something until I came home. Now, she could have, I was a sergeant by that time, and she could have come over and had her transportation paid for, and we'd had some off-base living allowance. But she had saved my allotment, and so we chose for her not to come.
Can you explain to the people maybe what you're talking about allotment? Can you explain to them what that is?
We got so much a month of our pay that was sent, or could be,
Okay.
sent home. And since I was married, that's what I chose to do. It depended on your rank and therefore what your income. As I remember when I went in, a private made $90-some a month.
Okay.
30-something of that came in the allotment.
Okay.
Then when I made corporal, it went up, and I made sergeant, it went up. There was a great deal, but she saved $3,300 in the 2 years I was on. Back in those days, a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
And when I got home, we made the down payment on the first little home. We bought a brand new 2-bedroom home for $8,500.
Okay. So, did you end your service in Hawaii? Is that where you ended your
No.
service at?
Came home and went to Fort Knox.
In Kentucky?
Yeah, left from Pearl Harbor and came home to San Francisco, Oakland Army Base.
Okay.
Flew to Louisville, bus to Fort Knox, and that was on a Thursday, as I recall. They let us come home Friday afternoon. We paid a company clerk to bring 3 or 4 of us from Warren County home. Went back on Sunday afternoon and finished up discharge on Tuesday.
Okay. So is that the first time you saw your wife in almost 2 years?
20 months.
How many?
20 months.
20 months, almost 2 years.
Yeah.
That was pretty.
Yeah.
That was something else, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I remember coming into Bowling Green on the Louisville Road, everything just seemed like a dream. I mean, it didn't look the same. And of course, I-65 had been partially
Yeah.
completed, you get off and on. But it took a little getting used to.
Do you feel as though you adjusted to civilian life pretty well, or did you adjust to civilian life pretty well?
Yeah, it took a while. You know, it took a little while to get used to the not having to get up at 5:30 in the morning and this and that, decide what you were going to do. And my wife had gotten a small apartment,
Okay.
anticipating my coming home. And then after a few months, we contracted to have a home built.
Okay.
So went to work, started school, graduated from Western in summer 1960.
Okay.
I was almost 28 years old when I graduated because I had worked about a year, went to service for 2, came home and worked a couple of years, and then started in the spring of 1957.
What did you study at Western? What was
Accounting.
Accounting?
I went to the old Wilmington Business University that merged with Western in
Okay.
1963, became the business school of Western.
Okay. So when you graduated Western, where did you start work at then?
I had been working for the old Burford Tobacco Company here for 5 years when I graduated.
Okay.
And so I stayed with them. So I stayed in that business for about 15 years. And then I was finance director of the city of Bowling Green for a few years and been in banking or investments for about 40 years.
Okay. Okay, so when you graduated, what year was it?
Summer of 1960.
1960, okay. Do you...
Had 3 children in the audience.
Okay, you had 3 kids?
3 children sitting in the audience when I graduated.
Oh, really? Yeah, I graduated college when I was 28. I went back to school late too, so that was pretty special for you to...
It was. I graduated in summer of 60, and I would have been 28 the following January.
Okay. So you had all 3 of your kids there. So how many kids do you have? You have 3 kids?
We had 4.
4 kids?
We lost a son a year ago this past August,
I'm sorry.
but we had 4.
Okay.
6 grandchildren, 3 great grandchildren.
So how many, you had 4 kids, how many was it boys or girls?
We had 2 boys and 2 girls.
2 boys and 2 girls?
Twin
Okay.
boys.
Okay.
2 girls.
So when you graduated and you started going in like accounting and banking business, and so like in the 70s and 80s, where you're still working in the same field?
Yes.
Okay.
I went from 76 to 94. I was head of a trust department at a bank.
Okay.
And then from 1944, 94 until present, I still work.
Okay.
I've been in investment business.
Okay. And where do you work today?
I'm with Hedgewood Lions
Okay.
downtown here in Bowling Green.
Okay.
Been with them for 23 years.
Okay. And so it's pretty obvious that the building we're in is it's named after you, Bob Kirby. And you told me the story about that you like to be called Bob, you don't like to be called Robert. And so it's pretty obvious, the people that are watching this, that you've dedicated your life to service in the communities and stuff. So would you like to maybe tell some of the people that are watching, what are some of your passions of some of the organizations you're involved in?
I've been on the Salvation Army Board here this is my 44th year.
Okay.
I've been active with the United Way. I served on the library board. I went through some very difficult times trying to get the library tax passed before we could do things like this.
Yes, sir.
I was the last person, I think, to know that this library had been named for me.
Oh, really?
My wife knew it before I did.
Okay.
I'd been off the board for several years when that happened. But I've always loved to read, still do.
Oh, really?
I love to read. And I just feel very strongly that it is an assistance to the education system to have libraries like this available to the children.
It is.
And the older people too.
Older people too, yes.
But I think it's a habit that you can get into at a very early age. Probably in about the 9th grade, I started using a library, and my habit would be, when school was out on Friday, I'd go to the library, which was at an old house up on Chestnut Street.
Okay.
I'd check out 2 books, take them home, read them over the weekend. After school Monday, I'd take them back to the library. I did that for years. I read all of Zane Grey's Westerns and Jack London's exciting adventure stories and Horatio Alger's Rags to Riches stories, and all before long before I graduated from high school.
Okay, so you've always liked reading.
Yeah.
So can you maybe tell us, like you said, Salvation Army and United Way, so what can you explain to maybe what some of the things that Salvation Army and United Way does so that...
We have a full service here. We have a shelter that sleeps about 80 to 100 people a night.
Okay.
We serve lunch every day, Monday through Friday, probably at least 200 people. We fix food boxes for families. We have 6 small efficiency apartments for families, temporary housing. We try to find them jobs and move them out and upward.
Okay.
Christmas time, the bell ringing, fundraising during the holiday season, food boxes during Christmas. I've served, like I said, I've been on the board for 44 years. Every other week I go to Auburn to the Mennonite Bakery down there and get, they save things they pull off the shelf for me, put them in the freezer. I go down, pick up bread and pastries, all kinds of things, bring them back to the soup kitchen.
Yes, sir.
Been doing that for, I don't know, 10 years or more.
10 years.
Probably every other week. I served as chairman of the board. I served as co-chairman of the fundraising drive, and we built what we call the Center of Hope down there, which is a new facility on the right.
Okay.
Dining room seats about 125 people. The shelter, like I said, it varies, but it'll vary from 80 to 100 people a night. Men, women, children, all kinds of situations, everything you can think of.
Are you a member of any veterans organizations now?
I'm the Salvation Army Board, and still active in it.
Are you a member of like the American Legion or?
Yeah, I'm not. I support it, but I just
Okay.
never have. I've
Okay.
been busy there.
Yes, sir.
Been active at Western.
Okay.
Served as president of Alumni Association. Served on the Community Foundation, Warren County Community Foundation. Now the South Central Kentucky Community Foundation.
How do you think the military has played a part in your life in service? So it sounds like you not only did you go and serve your country in Korea, but you also gave up personal comforts and you gave up your relationship with your wife. And so it sounds like you really believe in serving and putting others first. How else would you agree with that, or how do you think that the Army or the military is shaped the way you believe things?
Well, of course, I've seen a lot of things in my time that I wouldn't want my family to have to endure. And I think that I was so glad to get out of Korea, get home, that undoubtedly had something to do with my public service. You know, I received a Jefferson Award here. I was named the Outstanding Citizen of South Central Kentucky by the Community Foundation. The honor of having this library
Yes, sir.
named for me. So, you know, I've received back
Okay. Yes,
also.
sir. So do you think maybe by seeing Korea and they weren't as fortunate and they were like they had a hard time finding things to eat and maybe their housing wasn't as good? You think that maybe made you realize how blessed we are in the United States?
There's no question about it. You couldn't be there for 13 months like I was and see what you saw and not be grateful for what we have.
Yes.
It was a great experience. I wouldn't want to do it again, didn't want to do it then, but I wouldn't take anything for the military service, the leadership training that I had, and it is, without a doubt, had been 2 of the most productive years of my life.
Yeah, and you know, all the people I've talked to, they all say that they wouldn't give anything for the military service.
No. I was 21 years old, barely, when I got out of the service, and been in leadership positions all the time. So I've been in situations that here at times it would send somebody into panic that
Doesn't bother you because you've been in it, you know.
No.
And so I always like to give the veteran the end. So if you had one, if the people that watch this, what would you have them to take away from this interview? What would you have them to maybe tell them about this interview? If you wanted to tell anybody about this interview, what would you?
You know, I have never been away from here for any length of time that I didn't feel a certain sense of comfort when I come down I-65 and see that Warren County sign. Because I know then I'm not far from family and friends.
Yeah.
I'm just glad to be home.
Yeah, yeah, and I think a lot of times when we just live in the United States and we get out of the United States and people who are in the military, they see they see how, how blessed we are in the United States.
One of the most terrifying things is if you get to the place over there where you cannot picture yourself ever getting off the plane back in this country. And you cannot picture yourself seeing that Warren County sign again. After a while, it just gets, I'm never going to get out of here.
So you think maybe 13 months seemed like 13 years?
It did.
Okay.
It did.
And
Now time passes so fast, but that was a long time.
the days were long,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I go up to the bell tower. I've got 2 pictures on the bell tower that Mr. Guthrie honored me with. I go up there. I don't go often, but I've been up there some with the kids and grandkids, and I see those pictures when I was 19 and 20 years old in Korea, both of them.
Yeah. So I think it's real important to, what we're trying to do with this Veterans Oral History Project is have future generations see what veteran life is and make them or help them realize how good we have it in this country and how blessed we are.
And you know, we were forced in the sense if you compare yourself to some of the guys in World War II, some of them were gone 4 years.
Yeah.
Some of those people were in the service when that thing started. You know, 41 to August 45.
45, yeah.
And some of them were never home either.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
you know, compared to my 20 months away from home, it kind of alters that picture a little bit too.
Yes, sir. How do you feel the military has shaped your life and the way you look at the military in if you see there's a war on television, they talk about a war in a different country or maybe troops in this country going to harm's way. How does it affect the way you think?
Well, you know, the war since then especially have been different.
Okay.
Really different.
Yes, sir.
The enemy doesn't wear a uniform. You don't know who they are. They all look alike. There's no front line. You don't know they're there and we're here. But it's been that way really since Vietnam, since the Korean War, including Vietnam.
Yeah.
They don't wear these fancy looking helmets where you can identify them. So, and you walk down the street and pass somebody, say good morning or something, and they'll shoot you in the back.
Yeah.
Or you step on a man out here on the road. So, war has changed. They're all bad, but
Yeah.
that's a big difference for me. I can understand why some of these kids are coming home with these problems. When you live that every day you go out, you don't know whether you're going to come back in or not.
No.
And like I said, you can't identify the enemy. And I can understand why you've got all these mental mix-ups.
Yeah. Yeah.
We weren't confronted with that. I feel for these guys in Iraq and Afghanistan and even in Vietnam, same way.
Yeah. It was like guerrilla warfare, wasn't it?
And people don't realize how long the Vietnamese thing lasted. They were taking volunteers. When I left Korea in September of 1953, they were taking volunteers to Vietnam.
53.
Critical MOS numbers. Volunteers, and they weren't combat, but the military knew what was coming.
Yeah. It was a build-up, wasn't it?
Yeah. And we came to Hawaii and immediately started jungle training.
As in Vietnam. Yeah.
And that was in 1953. So, you know, that thing went on forever.
Yeah. Would there be anything that you like to end this interview with? Anything you'd like to say, or you have the floor, or anything you'd like to?
No, I would just like to reiterate that, like most guys then, I didn't want to be away from family for that period of time. Didn't know what I was going to get into. The war was going on. But I'm glad I went. I'm glad I served. It was beneficial to me. It was 2 of the most productive years I ever spent in my life. I'm glad my son didn't have to go. I hope nobody ever has to go. But I have no regrets whatever about serving in the military.
Well, I just want to say it's an honor to sit here and talk to you, and I appreciate your service and your sacrifices and everything you've done, and I really appreciate this interview. It's good talking to you.
Thank you very much. I
Thank you.
enjoyed it.
Thank you.